Hello, Jamie from Inky and Scrappy. Welcome back to all of my subscribers, and if you are new here, please consider subscribing below and you can be alerted to when new videos go up on the channel. I'm sharing with you today card 5 of 5 in my stamp set series featuring Lawn Fawn's Totally Awesome stamp set. The color guide will be up on my blog post if you are interested in the colors I use to color my images. All images were colored with Hoo Hoo bullet nib markers and cut on my Scan and Cut. I will also be using the Lawn Fawn's Cattail border die with some homemade paper using distress spray stains and some mica stains. I'm starting with a piece of paper that is 6 1/4 by 3 1/4. It's a little bit, I don't know, I guess it falls in the mini slimline category. I do end up cutting it so it ends up being 6 inches by 3 1/4 inches. I don't exactly know why, but that's just the size it ended up being. So I'm just figuring out placement and layout here. Sorry, I'm a little bit off screen there. I get in the zone and I don't pay attention to what's going on above me on camera, I guess. So I had decided that I wanted to do a darker scene or a moodier scene. I have not done a dark scene for quite some time. And yes, you'll see the little fairies up there. They were in my mind to add to the scene, you know, when I was brainstorming, and so that's why they kind of just ended up there, and I didn't end up using them. But they would have been cute, too. And so I went in with some Distress Oxide Black Soot and darkened up my sky some more, and then I'm coming in with, I want to say it's Hickory Smoke. I could be wrong. It might be pumice stone. And then adding in some lighter spots. So I kind of wanted to make the moon a little bit lighter there. I did not like how my moon turned out. And yes, I'm totally off camera now, and I'm sorry. I did bring in some antique linen, and I added the striation lines in there with it. I'm using a skinnier blending brush. So when I started with the blending brushes, I went on Amazon and found a huge set for like $10, and it's a makeup set. So it's got those the little ones, the circle ones, and then the little long ones. And I kind of like the little long ones for really finicky stuff, or like putting those extra lines in there. As the little circle ones are wonderful too. And those ones I tend to clean more frequently because I only have a few of them. But I'm doing the same thing on the water below. I'm trying to make it so it matches. So the moon, I actually did not like how it looked. So I took the Distress Oxide ink in the gray and the ivory, whatever was left on my brush, and just made a little scrap piece of paper, and then took a 1-inch circle punch and punched it out. So that was how I did my moon. And then I'm coming in with that Black Soot Distress Oxide ink that is on my ink brush. And my images were too light for this really dark night scene. At least that was kind of my thought. So the white was sticking out like a sore thumb when I laid it on that background, and I didn't like that look. So I just went in and dirtied it all up, or, you know, made it like it was nighttime. So I dimmed all the colors down and kind of helped them to blend into the scene a little bit better, I think. So being that I'd already pre-colored these, I didn't want to go back and recolor them with a darker shade or with a dark gray marker to give it more highlight. And it just, using the shading brush or the blending brush was just quick. And I'm all about getting things done fast, than, you know, less fast, I guess. I don't know. So I'm adding on I've already glued down my water, and I'm just adding in those other cattails on the bottom. I do plan on cutting off the bottom if you are curious. It was just easier for me to lay those. It was just way easier to put those little itty bitty pieces of grass on there, and then cut off that piece that kind of let me hold onto them. So I'm going to glue the moon over my botched ink job up there. And then I'm going to add in the little brown poofy parts of the cattails. And if you've ever played with a real cattail, not a real cat, I'm talking about the grass cattail. They're like a super condensed version of dandelion puff. And so we would go down to, we lived by a river. We lived on a farm, but there was a river that went through the back of the property, and we would go down there by the bog. No, Mom, we didn't go down by the bog. We would go down there and pick cattails up the grass again, not an actual cat, and we would pull. Once you start to pull the hairs or the little seeds off of that condensed brown part on top, and once they would start, it would just like explode, and it would go everywhere. It was the coolest thing to watch when we were little. I do believe they actually explode when they release their seeds. I've never seen it happen in real life, so I really don't know for sure. I'm just going in with all of those images, kind of figuring out where they can go here and there. And yes, I made that dragonfly super dark because I wanted it to blend in with my background there. So that is it for the scene for the most part. I decided that I didn't want to put a sentiment on the front of the card. I figured it would take away from that nighttime scene, and I really did like how that nighttime scene was looking. So I'm going to take out my card base, which was cut at 6 1/4 by 6 1/2, and I will score that 6 1/2 at 3 1/4. So my finished card base, I did end up cutting off a 1/4 inch off of the one side, so it ends up being a 6 inch by 3 1/4 closed card. And then I decided I was picking out my sentiment, and I really didn't like anything that was on the Totally Awesome stamp set for a night style scene. And so I ended up pulling out the Wish Upon a Star. I think that's what that one's called. I will have it listed below. And I kind of fell in love with that shooting star. And I'm okay with, you know, hoping for the best and stamping on my finished card front. Does it always work out? Nope. That's what embellishments are for. It did work out this time, thankfully, so I didn't have to be creative with my embellishments to add all of those stars to the sky. So I did the 3-star cluster after I did the shooting star, and then I went in with that individual star stamp and then just filled in where I thought it might need a little bit more filling in. And then before I put this on top of the card base, I will use some score tape. So I'm putting the score tape on the front there. And then I want to make sure that the pigment ink dries well before I smear it. Because let's be honest, that's usually how I ruin card fronts. It's by smearing wet ink. So I'm using the sentiment You're My Shining and then Star. And because the star kind of goes up, the T on the star goes up, I did my sentiment in 2 layers. So the You're My Shining, and then I came back in with that star, and that T is going to overlap just a little bit into the top of that sentiment. If you're a font star like I am, I love font. It's the best. So I loved the look of this one, and to make that star stand out, because, you know, it's scrolly and scripty and it needs to be the center of stage here, I came in with my Galaxy Jelly Roll pen here and then just added that onto the top of it. So it gives it that sparkle and sheen. So it definitely stands out. And then to add my card front to my base here, I just pull up opposite corners so I can line up the one side, make sure it's going to be straight on the other side. And yes, I did put a piece of acetate in there to make sure that it wasn't going to smudge onto the top before it was dry. And then I did come back in with that Galaxy Stardust, I think it's a Stardust pen, sorry. The Stardust pen, and then added a whole bunch of Stardust, you know, shine to all of the things. And that will complete my card for today and my series on Toadally Awesome Stamp Set. If you missed any of the previous ones, go make sure and watch the rest of them. Thank you so much for joining me, and please keep getting inky.